Spurs have made a bid for Savinho, Manchester City's 21-year-old winger, who is a brilliant, brilliant Brazilian winger. The classic sort of Brazilian stereotypical player. I think we've had players at Spurs who are Brazilian, but we haven't ever had that traditional, flary, skillful Brazilian. And Savinho is exactly that. He's the type of player that I love watching. It's the kind of player I go to matches to watch because he's just one who gets you off your seat. So much ability, so much personality on the ball. And I think people will look at sort of the output without looking at him as a footballer. And what Savinho brings is just extreme technical ability, extreme ball manipulation, footwork. He's such a skillful player. And I think Savinho, what I like about him so much as a winger, is you often get dribble first wingers as one of either someone who's great in open spaces, so when there's lots of space, they can eat up the ground and be lethal on the counter attack. Or you get someone who's really skillful in tight areas, may not have that athleticism to cover large spaces, but they have that agility and low center of gravity. But what Savinho brings is both. He's got that kind of extreme level of footwork, but he's also got the athleticism to match. And that makes him really, really dangerous in all types of situations. I think the other thing to note about him is that he's able to play on both sides, which I'm going to touch on in more detail, but I think that's also very rare. And the ability to play on both sides means that when he's playing on either flank, he can go both ways, and that makes him really, really unpredictable, which again is a defender's nightmare. I think defenders, especially fullbacks, are often trying to read where the player's going to go, and if you are able to go both sides, then it's really, really difficult to preempt where the attacker's going to go. So that's another facet of his game. But overall, I'm really, really happy about this interest. I think everyone was expecting the next kind of transfer news to drop being a 10. And I'm not convinced that we won't go after a 10 as well. I think we potentially might go after a 10 as well as Savinho. But there are some things to note with that. So if you are enjoying this content, please do subscribe, like the video, comment down below what you think of Savinho and also what you want to see next. But let's get into the tactics board. So I think the first thing to note is that Savinho is more than comfortable playing on either flank. What Savinho likes to do when he's playing on the right flank is definitely be more associative, more having the options to combine. So he likes to come inside and really play ball with those around him. Might play into Solanke's feet, get it back. He's got real good kind of knowledge of where people are, awareness of what's required, good rotation ability. He just understands the game so well, and he's so comfortable in all areas. He's the kind of player you can give the ball wherever you want, and he's going to be secure in it and basically create openings and be really kind of creative in all aspects. So I think when he's on the right flank, he does look to come and create from these areas. And I think you kind of want him in this sort of zone when he's on the right flank, because his half space crossing is really, really good. And I think if Solanke is able to get more in the box this season, especially aerially, I think we'll really enjoy some of these crosses from Savinho because he puts so much whip and venom on them. And I think that could be a real asset for us. I think the other thing about Savinho on the left, though, on the right, sorry, is that he's not just one-sided. So although he can be quite one-footed, he's not one-sided. So, he might shape to cut inside here and then rapidly burst down the line. And he's got that acceleration, that footwork to do it, and then he'll get into these areas and be able to cut it back to those arriving. And so that makes him really, really unpredictable. He does obviously want to operate more inside when he's on the right because he's left-footed and those angles are just more in favour. And I really do think he enjoys kind of playing those tight-knit combinations from that right flank. So that is one thing to note about him on the right. I think he's a real creative player on the right. On the left, I think I see him as quite a different player. On the left, I think the zones that he really is going to be interested in is here. and he is a relentless dribbler. Can be really, really direct here, where he's using that skill but also that athleticism to just relentlessly beat his fullback, and he enjoys those 1v1s. And I think that's something we've missed at Spurs for so long, is someone who really enjoys those 1v1s. And Savinho will relentlessly run at his fullback, and that relentless kind of never stopping, constantly testing your fullback is such a good skill, because over 90 minutes that can just really wear out a fullback. And he is someone that will never stop trying those things. And so Savinho is more than comfortable on both flanks, and I think that's one thing we've got to get sorted in our head. And I think that definitely is dependent on maybe where the fullbacks are, or who the fullbacks selection are. So let's say we've got Udogie playing left back. For me, I wouldn't probably pick Savinho on the left, because you want Udogie kind of dominating that flank, being able to overlap, use that athleticism, and then you've got Savinho kind of cutting into. And I think Savinho can definitely do this on the left side, but I don't think it's optimizing him. I think he's such a good combiner that he can do it. But if you want Savinho on the left, I think you want him to really dominate that touchline, because I think this could be a really, really nice dynamic where Savinho is out here constantly, and this opens these gaps for Spence to kind of drive into. And we know that really benefits Spence, because he's so good at carrying from those wide areas into central areas. And I think these two could have a really nice relationship here, because Savinho can kind of hold the width, which opens up the space for Spence to kind of travel into if we just draw that space. And I think Spence is so good at combination as well, that he'll kind of draw people in here and then maybe play Savinho out here, and then you've got Savinho isolated against a fullback, which is cash money for Savinho. That's what he eats off. That's what he loves to do. So I have a real good feeling about that relationship if Savinho is to join, where Spence will really benefit off Savinho, and Savinho will really benefit off Spence, especially with at the moment Udogie being injured. If you have him on the right, you probably want Porro, or if it's Spence or Porro, you probably want them to be a bit more of an overlapping threat. I know Porro's played at this kind of area, deep kind of area, narrow area, early in pre-season. I think over here you kind of want Savinho to have the license to cut inside, so you probably want to get that width from somewhere else. Although I do think Savinho on the right side can be more of a touchline player, who when he receives it travels inside, so he still creates that space here, kind of creates that width here, but when he does receive it, then he has the license to go inside. So I'm not as hell-bent on the right side having an overlapping fullback as I am on the left side, where I want him to really be the width holder. I think on the right side he can be the width holder here as well, but he can also cut inside here. He's comfortable on both wings, and I think it's really situationally dependent on who we're playing, on who the fullback is, and pretty much the other options as well. So if it's Kudus playing, then you want probably Kudus more likely on the right. I think the next point I wanted to make is about people criticising Savinho's output at Manchester City. And if you just ignore the personnel, because obviously this is Spurs' squad, not Man City's squad, but this is how Man City want to play. They want to have their wingers really wide, which creates these sorts of avenues for their eights to kind of arrive late into the box, because the pitch is stretched by the wingers, which creates those gaps for these central players to arrive. So that's one job that the Man City wingers have. They want to be constantly on the touchline to stretch the pitch as wide as possible to create those half space openings for the central players. So that's them kind of staying on the touchline. But then the other thing they need to be doing is getting to the byline to serve Haaland, who obviously is a great penalty box striker. So all of that doesn't really lean itself into the winger getting goals really. Maybe assists from these areas when he cut it back. But again, they're constantly out here. They're not close to goal. So they might kind of create from here, get some assists like that. There might be the occasional place where they hit the back post where this winger gets to the byline and they tap it in here. But their primary role is to be constantly out wide. And so that doesn't lean itself to goal scoring. And so that's why I think context is key with Savinho's goal output from last season. I think if you want to get a sort of reading of Savinho's potential goal output, then look at his Girona minutes. And his goal output was good at Girona. And I think that's important to note. He's not going to struggle in terms of output in my eyes. I think context is key. If you get him in the right areas, he's got great ball striking. And just the amount of situations and dangerous kind of attacks he gets himself involved with, the goals are they're gonna flow in my eyes. I'm really not worried about that. Now the final thing I kind of wanted to touch on is what that means for our number 10 situation and whether we need to bring in a number 10 as well. Maybe Kudus's potential abilities in the number 10. So at the moment, obviously, we're really lacking a 10. And if Savinho comes in, he's more than comfortable on the right. And obviously, I think Frank does fancy Odubel on the left. I do think he's going to enjoy him there. So I've been kind of stipulating whether Kudus would be good as a number 10. And I think this is very situational. But as we've spoken about, Frank really wants his 10 to be able to pick up the ball in these sorts of areas and then carry it into the final third. I think he really wants his 10 to be able to help in progression. I think part of this is because we don't have a deep passer. So let's say the number 10 just stays there. That pass isn't going to happen that much. So I think Frank will be big on their 10 coming, getting the ball themselves and creating that opening themselves. And I think here Kudus would be an absolute cheat code. I think his ability to receive under pressure in these sorts of areas and then carry it rapidly into the final third is so good. And so I think when there's space and you kind of need to break through pressure, so sort of playing against a high pressing team or in a really transitional game, someone like Kudus in the 10 would be absolutely game breaking because of how well he can carry the ball through the thirds. I think where the issue comes, if we just put in, let's say, an opposition, I think where the issue comes with Kudus in the 10 is him against deep blocks, because he's not someone who's going to unpick teams with a pass because he's way more of a carrier, and there's only so much you can do with it as a carrier when there's real limited space, unless you're in the wide areas. So here, I don't think he's going to be that optimal, and to be honest, his ability to come and collect off here is a bit redundant against a low block because the team won't be pressing anyway. So these midfielders are going to have way more time on the ball to advance. So you don't really need that help in progression because the progression comes naturally because of the territory that the opposition are giving up. So here is where I have a bit of a problem with the Kudus at the 10. I think the ability to shoot from range is one that helps him here, but I don't think he's going to kind of get into these sort of pockets and find little cute passes like that. He's not going to sort of open up a team with a really good assist. I think that is just not his game. So if we are still in the market for a 10, I think the key is to get a passer, because I think Kudus is more than good enough to do the 10 role against higher blocks or mid blocks where there's more space. Transitional games, I think Kudus is a game-breaking number 10. He reminds me, his output reminds me a little bit of sort of Rodgers in terms of how he plays the number 10, where he's just a powerful carrier and so difficult to stop him in central areas. And if you have a player who can carry it in central areas, that's a real difficult player to stop, because central areas are obviously the most dangerous, they're closest to goal, and someone who can carry in such congested areas is a real unique talent to really weave in and out of so much bodies, but also really gain that territory and get yourself up the pitch in those central dangerous areas. I think that's a really, really good skill to have. But against those low blocks, like we touched on, I think you need a pass first 10. So I'm looking at someone who can really pick the lock here, whether that's like a little chip ball over the top, whether that's a little through ball here, whether that's like a sort of 1-2 off here and then a shot or whatever. It's someone that's really kind of intricate and intelligent, IQ, kind of that sort of proper playmaker. You're looking at the types of players like James Maddison in his full fitness, David Silva, even Paul Pogba at times. Those players who are just so smart, so good in that final third, to really kind of open a team up, a real stubborn team. And in terms of targets for us, I think someone who fits that, who I haven't been that keen on the 10 role, but if they wanted to share minutes with Kudus in the 10, Harvey Elliott. I think Harvey Elliott is a brilliant final third player. Where I have concerns with Harvey Elliott is the dropping deep and helping progress play. But if he was to rotate with Kudus in the 10 and Kudus could play in more transitional games and Harvey Elliott could help us break blocks, I think he's a great option. El Canus, who I've been massive on, I think he's perfect for that role. I really do. I think he's got the ability to open up defenses with that vision. He's got an incredible vision and IQ. Nico Paz, of course, and there's a few other options. I think Eze, for example, I wouldn't target. Eze is a dribble first player. We need a pass first player, and I think that is vital. I think we're lacking passes now in the team, and so I think if we are going to go and target a 10, they need to be a passer, and I think Savinho is another kind of great option, but he doesn't solve that passer, and I think we do need two. So I think Savinho is a vital signing as well as a passer, because I think we've sold Son. We need a proper kind of marquee-ish winger, and Savinho is that. And we also need a 10 who can open up blocks. And I still think we'll go after one, even with this Savinho signing. So that's kind of all my thoughts on Savinho and then the potential 10 role. If you do want me to make any follow-up videos to this, please do comment them down below. And if you've enjoyed the video, please do subscribe, like the video too. And we've got plenty more coming. The Lily White Lab podcast is going to be dropping this week, the first episode. So make sure you're ready for that, and plenty more content coming. But overall, I just want to say I'm really excited about what we're building here. Thank you for everyone who's subscribing and leaving comments. It's been really helpful to kind of know where to take this. And come on, you Spurs.